and Ebony Land is in the studio here at We Act Radio. She's the policy director at Social Security Works. You can tweet them at SSWorks. Ebony, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, these are big issues with a large scope. What is the state of all this right now? And what is the direction that the Republicans are pushing and that the Democrats are fighting, pushing, whatever? I mean, describe the, I hate war metaphors, but the battle lines here.
So right now, as we know, the Senate just passed the tax bill. So if the tax bill ends up becoming law, what we can see happen is that $400 billion will be cut from Medicare and 13 million people will become uninsured. And also, we try to stay away from, deficit language, but what will happen is that it will increase the deficit. And what we think will happen is that once the deficit is increased, Republicans will argue that we have to cut, mandatory spending so that we can bring down the deficit. So we know that that means things like Social Security and Medicare. So the Democrats are arguing, of course, opposed to the tax bill. And if the tax bill is passed, then they better be opposed to cutting Social Security, which, benefits so many Americans, not just older Americans, but disabled Americans, people who have lost their parents, people who live with their grandparents. It's just an issue where Americans do not want Social Security to be cut. In fact, most of them want it to be expanded. So if the Republicans try to cut Social Security, there is no doubt that in November 2018 we will see a huge shift in Congress.
And yet, one of the neat little tricks that the Republicans are doing in state after state after state is saying that you cannot vote unless you have a valid driver's license. And most people on Social Security at some point stop driving. They let the driver's license lapse, and in those states, that means that they can no longer vote. I mean, it almost looks, it looks to me like the Republicans are picking their voters rather than the other way around. Are you hearing about elderly people being disenfranchised? Is this an issue, or is this just my paranoia?
I haven't actually heard of that particular disenfranchisement, but I do believe that Republicans for years have been gaming the system, redistricting people. They've been passing voter ID laws to disenfranchise a certain population of people and to make it easier for them to win elections. So that is something that we have to fight on several fronts. We have to fight voter disenfranchisement because, as we saw from the 2016 election, was that the majority of Americans voted Democratically, but Donald Trump won the election. And I think that that is something that demonstrates how this long chase, and I think it's been happening for decades, that the Republicans have been manipulating rules so that they can win elections. So it's time that we fight back. It's time that we reexamine some of these voter ID laws that have been passed in several states, because it's preventing people from voting. It's preventing us from advancing. And that's something that is undemocratic. And it's simply just not, it's not okay. It's not, for people not to be able to vote simply because they don't have the proper driver's license. Because there's things you need to consider that, like you said, people stop driving after a certain age. That doesn't mean that they're trying to commit voter fraud.
Right, or that they're not capable of voting anymore. I mean, and it's just, it's crazy. So with regard to Social Security, we've talked kind of about the bad news, right? Which is the Republicans are, they very much want to privatize Social Security. There's $2.5 trillion in that Social Security trust fund, and boy, would Citibank and Bank of America love to get their hands on that money, if we were to privatize it. Is there any good news?
There's always good news with Social Security.
So, Ebony, what is it?
Well, the good news is that Social Security has paid, every payment it needs to pay on time and will continue to do so for a long time. It's dependable, and there's so many things that we can do to even increase benefits and extend solvency. So Social Security is, the most successful program that has been enacted by the government since it's been enacted. So everything about Social Security is good. It's just those battle Republicans that try to manipulate the narrative around Social Security.
And the banksters who own them. I mean,
Yeah.
this is. Have we started yet to see the campaign ads from the billionaires and the banksters saying, "Hey, we need to, cut Social Security" or something like that? I haven't been watching the media. But.
Yeah, I haven't seen it on my TV, but I'm sure they're going to start coming out, especially if this tax bill is passed. I'm sure there's going to be some false narrative circulating.
Didn't Rubio just say something recently about this?
Yes, Rubio did. He is kind of weaselly with his words, but he basically said that we need to restructure Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, we've heard that before.
Which, AKA, I want to cut Social Security and Medicare, and Americans definitely should see through those words. That means he wants to take your Social Security, he wants to take your Medicare.
There you go. Ebony Land, she is the policy director with Social Security Works. You can tweet her at SSWorks. Ebony, thank you.